Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. Today's guest, Joann, is here with us. She's a podcast host, author, and the founder of JTD Life and Wellness Coaching. Welcome to the show, Joann.
Hi, Teri. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you. You look fabulous.
Thank you, as well as you do too. It's been a little bit since we
Yeah.
reconnected, but let's dive in. For folks that don't know you yet, how did you get to be where you're at today?
So I think that pre-COVID, I think that really COVID was a big impetus for the change in my life. Prior to that, I knew that there was a lack of fulfillment in my life, and I had gone through a physical transformation. I lost 100 pounds, but there was still something missing. And right prior to COVID, I had founded the JTD Health Mindset and Life Coaching, and I knew that there was I think that everybody knows that the formula, the predestined formula was to eat less, exercise more, but I knew something was missing. And for me, it was mindset. And so now I developed a program and then a three-pronged approach that encompasses all three of those branches. But then I started speaking to fabulous people like yourself, and I turned everything into now I'm a podcast host and producer. I actually I am also part of the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network now, and I do some live shows, a talk show host. I'm a talk show host, an anchor on a sports program, which I never imagined myself saying. And that's really how everything evolved, mindset. And I found myself, and now I'm just a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades, whatever the terminology we want to use.
I love it. So what has been, losing 100 pounds, you make that sound like it's like, oh, yesterday I was like 100 pounds and lost it like that. So obviously that has been, you know, something that you've had to overcome. So in that process, what has been your biggest mindset challenge that you've had to overcome?
Biggest mindset challenge I had to overcome is growing up. I think that I learned very early on. I actually had a fear of men for a very long time. And I think that because I came from an old school grandparents and children were supposed to be muted, and I learned that quickly, and I didn't have a voice. And it really wasn't until I had squandered decades when I started to believe and start to think to myself, if I don't speak up, if I don't stop making myself invisible by utilizing food and find a way to portray myself in an authentic light, I am going to squander my entire life. And that's really what happened. I really had to overcome my own limiting beliefs that I was worthy of being attractive and worthy of the kind of love that I craved and I longed for.
I think that whether it's weight loss, whether it is, anything in our lives, when we have those belief systems that are there to say, we don't deserve to be seen or heard, we don't matter, whatever those are, like those belief systems has a way of interfering in our life, and the things that will be shown to us, or the circumstances, if you will, they'll be shown to us, and at some point, like, it serves and then it stops serving us, right?
Right. So when it was serving, I think it served me in the way that I was afraid to be visible. And so it was serving and allowing me a mechanism to hide myself. But eventually it was limiting my life so much so that I was so preoccupied with how I looked. I'm not going to go to this party because I look
Mhm.
horrible. I can't fit into this outfit. I can't. And
Mhm.
of course, it's a work in progress. Even now, I struggle at times, but I no longer allow my looks to determine what activities I'm going to participate in and how I'm going to live my life.
Wow, that's powerful. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. When we can kind of globalize this, when we have those limiting beliefs that don't allow us to be seen and heard, we don't go to events. We don't I'll be honest, I work with a lot of high achieving women, and I would say most of the women have some little belief in there, or a thought process that says it is not safe for me to be seen and heard. And so, to have a bigger impact, but they're at the same time, they have this calling to do big things in the world. And they have a calling to like have a bigger impact, and they have a calling to, really kind of set the world on fire, if you will. Yet these two belief systems are not in alignment. And so we hold ourselves back. We don't allow ourselves to be fully, having the impact. And so what has been the biggest transformation, the biggest lesson, the biggest area for you? How did you turn that around?
I think when I initially turned it around, it was a fear of death. Two people that I worked with actually had heart attacks in close
Mhm.
proximity and actually literally died at the office. And I thought to myself, I'm close in age to them. And so that's what started the physical transformation. And then when the physical transformation was complete, I realized that I still wasn't happy. Something was missing. And then the mindset
Yeah.
transformation ensued in the emotional transformation. And I think for me, it was really coming to the realization that I was allowing the opinions of others to dictate my own value, and as a
Mm.
result, I was using my body as the battleground. So that's exactly it. I had those two warring factions. I always felt as if I was meant to be a bigger presence in the world, but allowed my looks to limit me from being that presence. I felt as if I was articulate, intelligent, and I certainly have the skills and ability, but I didn't want anyone to see what I look like. So
You
I
know,
think that
yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. When we have that fear of judgment of others, what are others going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? That in itself can limit our actions. They can limit, and I think a lot of times we will see ourselves sabotaging left and right because we just are so afraid. And I get that, because I just had this conversation just a few days ago with one of my clients, and she's really afraid to be seen, because if she's being seen, what are people going to say to her? What if she messes up? What if she doesn't say something right? What if she offends somebody? What if she, and all these other things? And so for her, she's like, I just don't want to do it. And so I am kind of pushing her out of her comfort zone a bit, so that, and really for me, and we will conjure up these stories, and it becomes all fear based, and it seems like the worst case scenario that we're playing out in our lives. And oftentimes when we take that first step, it is not as scary as we think. It's sometimes easier than we think, and once we do it once, we actually create this evidence, and we create this experience that says, wait, that goes against that thought, that goes against that belief, that goes against what I've been telling myself for the last 5 years, 6 years, 12 years, 15 years. And it starts to like have the brain get really curious to say, like, well, gosh, if that's not really true, what else have I been telling myself that's not really true? Because we were talking last night, we said, perception is reality, right? And so whatever we're saying, whatever we perceive is becomes our reality.
that's so true. And I think that that's true of communication too. The way we deliver communication isn't necessarily the way people receive it. And I think that
Yeah.
that's another big lesson that I've learned, the way that I communicate. Especially now, it's funny because if you had asked me 5 years ago if I would ever be on a live program, and now I do it, 5 times a week. I think that I think that's a great piece of advice for people to recognize that life is about evolution. And just because you're stuck in one place today. If you could see me 5 years ago, you would not believe where I am today. So I think that people really need to live with hope. And that's been instrumental in my life now, knowing that there's hope, earning credibility, taking those few small steps. And I think another great tactic is imagine the worst thing that could happen. And then you realize that's not so bad. You can overcome that.
Yeah. And that's a great strategy. I have said that before, like where, whenever I take a big leap of faith, it's like, okay, what could be the worst case scenario? What could really, I mean, what could, if this was going to go wrong, like how wrong could this go? And are you willing to live with that? Because most often we don't even come close to the worst case scenario, And so, but that gives us that little bit of motivation to be like, okay, maybe it's safe to at least try this, right? To try it out on size and see if it works and it doesn't work, right?
Totally. And I think as we get older too, I think the opinions of others just are so less significant. I think that that's one of my greatest lessons that someone told me. Do not allow the opinions of others to change your perception of yourself. And that's something that I always try to carry with
Yeah.
me.
Because we give away our power. I mean, if we allow folks, and their judgments of us, you know, we give away our power. It's almost like letting them like just get, giving the power and saying, okay, here's my life, here's my power. Do with you what you want with it, instead of just really reclaiming that power. And when we stand up and we really show up in our power, there's an energy that gets what I want to say, there's an energy that gets emitted from us. And when we step into that power, it almost is like this like powerful shield where like things just bounce off, like those judgments just bounce off. And I was telling someone the other day, I said, if we could just be an allowance of the judgments, which sounds like polar opposite advice, but if we can just be an allowance of them, they don't sting. They just are like, okay, there's going to be people that love me, there's going to be people that don't like me, and that's okay because I am not a flavor for everyone. I remember writing an article. I used to be a columnist for a Colorado Biz magazine, and there's this person that very high up in the community, probably I would be considered a maybe a local celebrity by some. And he responded to my article, and it was in a very horrible, awful way. And so I had to flip that. I had to flip that because I gave him so much power in that comment. And one, it was like he just didn't know. It was kind of an ignorant statement on his part because he didn't look at the facts. And so the facts were very, and I just kind of, I don't even know what I did. I'm pretty certain I consulted an attorney and then I responded. But but it was just like, you know what, I at that point I gave him a lot of power. And then at some point I'm like, okay, you know what? His opinion doesn't matter. You know why? Because he is not my target audience. I am not targeting males. I'm not targeting high powered males. I'm targeting with female entrepreneurs. I am target, so it's not going to connect with him. Like, and it shouldn't connect with him, right? Because if it was connecting, I would be speaking to my target audience, And so, Brene Brown has said, she will take criticism from people that are inside the arena with her, the people that are doing the work. Because as you know, as an entrepreneur, I mean, we get thrown stuff all the time. We have experiences that the average person don't have. And we got to be resilient and we got to keep picking ourselves up. And it's exhausting. And it's just at a different arena. And so, if those people are gonna, cast judgment, okay, if you're in the arena with me, and I almost can almost promise you, other people that are in their arenas don't cast those judgments because they're in the arena and they know the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into making this happen. And that's been my experience. But like the people that are in the arena are like, girl, you got this. Let's do it. Even if we're complete strangers, I have found that people in the arena cheer other people in the arena on. Did you get that sense too?
I do. And I believe too that most people wish the best and well for others. But I think about that individual and the impact that you had on him just to prompt a response. I think that really speaks volumes about his own character. If you're not in the arena, and why would you even want to lash out at anybody negatively? I think you should reserve your judgments for yourself because he had no influence in that. And if he did, why wouldn't he approach you privately?
Yeah.
I think that speaks
Sometimes the
volumes
golden
about
rule still applies. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And if you're, but and I'm asking people, like I do ask for feedback. I do ask for criticisms, so I can always improve. And I'll have people listen to different things and say, okay, give me your people that I trust that are going to give me. I don't want to be beaten up, and I might tell them, I'm like, if you're going to do it to beat me up, no, thank you. I want you to give me something concrete that I can grow and expand from that I can implement, right? It's very different than, you just beating me up. Okay. Cause I don't need that because I can do that for myself if I really want to go down that path.
but I think people in a growth mindset, for instance, you or myself, we would never do that to someone else,
Yes.
regardless of the arena and the platform.
Yeah.
And I think that's really notable here. So I don't know what type of celebrity he is, but he's certainly, yeah, he's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
he's not worthy of our adoration.
I know, right? And so every once in a while that experience pops up in my brain and I just kind of laugh at it now. But I do think, in this moment, in the backdrop of this conversation is, we can do so much more when we speak kindly to others. And let's speak kindness, and if we don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all, right? And I think we need that right now. We need more kindness, we need more warmth, we need more understanding, more grace, just based on where it and here's the thing, we don't ever know where someone's coming from, what their history is, what their experience is, and what their stories are, what their I mean, we are complex human beings, and if we can just lead with kindness and love, I mean, we can have just a huge impact on the world.
Agreed. And I know you've had a huge impact on my world, so you're already there.
Oh, thank you. They're so sweet. So let me ask you this: like, what you just gave some great yummy wisdom chunks here. What has been something that has been helpful for you? A tip, a tool, a nugget that you can share with the audience that you haven't already mentioned that can really support the audiences or the listeners, and being able to implement it today.
One of the biggest things that I've learned, especially, and this comes from a place, you'll have to remember that for decades I was living a fear-based life. And much of that fear was simply I was afraid to ask for what I wanted or what I needed. I think my
Mm,
biggest lesson was don't be afraid to ask, because sometimes, and in actuality, I found that most of the time the answer is yes. It's been instrumental in relationships, professionally. I think that most people want to help others, and they're willing, even if you think it's a contentious, even of my own spouse. I was holding back often and I wasn't saying what I needed. I just assumed that he knew. But don't assume that
mhm.
anybody knows what you need, and don't be afraid to ask for it. That's
Oh,
probably
that's so
my number
good.
one.
That is such a great reminder for people. Like, ask, like, you never know the answer. And like you said, oftentimes the answer is yes. And so, if we don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. Right. And so, give yourself permission to ask. And, and there was a movie that had quoted this. I think it was like, we built this, all you need is 30 seconds, 30 seconds of courage. Take that 30 seconds of courage and just simply ask. You'll be amazed. So think about in your life right now, what is it that you have been holding back, avoiding, resisting, not asking for? And let's be bold. When you're hearing this, be bold in asking. Joann, this has been absolutely delightful. Where can people find more about you?
Almost all of my information is on my website, and that's www.jtdcoachesme. All of my social media is JTD Coaches Me, so I'm easy to track down. And please feel free to DM me, follow me on Facebook, and I'd love to meet any of your fans, because I have something in common with them already, because I'm one of your biggest fans too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We'll drop all that information to the show notes. And just thank you for, having that courage to step in and, trust in your path, trust in your knowing that, what you have to bring to this world matters, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says. So thank you for not allowing that to stop you and allow you to step into who you are becoming to have a bigger impact in the world.
Thank you.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.